All right. Well, thank you for inviting me to present to the America Reads Tutors on professional development. I love adding this component to experiences such as America Reads because there is something to be learned from anything that students do, whether it could be the most mundane task or the most boring presenter or the best presenter. You can always learn something. And so I hope today to give the tutors some things to think about as they are reflecting on their experience that they had this year. And then we're also going to touch on how to leverage this and present it on your resume. And there we go. This is a quote that we actually discussed in the fall. So professionalism is the way that somebody conducts themselves in the workplace. And it's not something that you can say, okay, here I am, this is my professionalism. People see that in you and recognize it. You can't necessarily label yourself there. We also discussed the 5 main components to professionalism: appearance, action, communication, commitment, and making a good first impression. We're not going to touch on those, but they're on the previous presentation. So if somebody wants to go and find that and listen to that, we can do that. I like to look at experiences such as America Reads as a time for you to really play with your professionalism and try out some different things. If you happen to dress more professionally one day, how do students react to that? And do teachers react to you differently? Because it goes hand in hand with the first impression and how you carry yourself. I've talked to students who have the philosophy that, gosh, when I go on test days, I'm going to dress up because I feel more professional and I am going to do better on my exam or my presentation or whatever because of that. I would also encourage you to really try some different things. I know college students tend to grab their phones and, text or instant message or direct message all the time. What would happen if you actually picked up the phone and called somebody? Is that a way that somebody would rather be communicated with? How do they respond to that? And sometimes pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone when you're in a very safe environment, you can learn some things about yourself. Having a phone conversation rather than sharing text messages back and forth sometimes can be more efficient because you can hear their voice and get an answer right away, and you don't have to rely on waiting for them. Well, did they read it or not? One thing that we talked about in the fall was how you introduce yourself. Now is an opportune time to meet as many people as you possibly can. Talk to teachers who might pass in the hallway or meeting all of the administrators in the office. I think you might find that in a school, the school secretaries are probably some of the most important people to know and get on your side because they know everything. They know everything that's going on. People talk to them. They know students, parents, teachers. They know everybody. So this is now an opportunity to do that if you haven't done that already. I always encourage you to ask for more. Are you only working with a certain type of student? Maybe ask to work with, what may be deemed as a more difficult type of student to reach or connect with, or maybe ask to work with some English language learners so that you can practice your Spanish or the way that you explain things in English. If you're able, I'm sure that they would love for you to ask for more time so that you can spend more time practicing all of these things. And then the other tool that we briefly touched on in the fall is informational interviews. This is an amazing way for you to gain perspective. I would expect that you've had a conversation that felt kind of like an informational interview as you were meeting and getting oriented with the teacher that you're working with. But I would encourage you to have an informational interview with the principal if you can, or the reading teacher, or some of the behavioral specialists. Learn all about their jobs. And doing informational interviews is not just about, well, what do you do and how do you approach this? Informational interviews can touch a little bit more on the personal side. What do you love about your job? What don't you love about your job? What keeps you coming back every day? What gets you excited to get out of bed in the morning? What are some of the biggest challenges you've had and how have you overcome them? What advice do you have for me as, an emerging professional or an aspiring teacher, or, just as a college student in general? The information that you can glean from these conversations is so valuable. Getting that insight into what it takes to be successful personally and professionally. I'm sure that many of you have heard this quote before: choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Honestly, this is my wish for you, because if you can get up in the morning, and I can't wait to get there and see little Johnny or whatever, it really makes the days fly by. And finding something that you love, just makes everything more pleasant, because you want to be there. The people you're working with want to be there as well. So this is a time to spend some time reflecting on your work, and especially after some of the informational interviews, to really think about whether working in education or working in a school is where you want to be. And sometimes it is, do I want to be at a school? Do I want to work with kids? Do I like the schedule of education? Gosh, can I get there at 7 or 7:30 every morning? And then more specifically with America Reads, do you like that mission? And learning too about the different school districts and where their focus is. Are you proud to say that you work at a specific school or in a specific school district? Think too about what you would change about the experience, because if you have something that's tangible that might make it a better experience for you and you're continuing on next year, you may be able to implement that change. It might be something that Wendy or the teachers hadn't even thought of. And so have that discussion. The worst thing that'll happen is they'll say, no, we need to stick with what we're doing. But you've had a professional conversation around that. And also think about all the people that you run into while you're at America Reads, and think about, gosh, could I do that job? Would I like that job? Think about why, and have a conversation and dig a little deeper into that. Sometimes knowing that what you want to do and what you want to go into is a logical decision. It makes sense. I like doing this. We're going to move forward with this. Sometimes it's an emotional decision. And I always look at your career decision as a combination of the two, because you have to like what you're doing, and it has to be logical and work for you with, your professional aspirations, your schedule, your family, the pay, all of those things. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but starting to reflect now on your America Reads experience, and then hopefully that will carry through to other experiences that you will continue to reflect upon, can really help you be confident when it comes time to need to make that decision and find that job that will start your career. So thinking to the future, I feel sometimes like I'm a broken record when I say, talk to people, talk to people, talk to people. But it really is one of the best things you can do for yourself and your own professional development. And making connections. Face-to-face connections are obviously the best kind, but there are also some tools that you can use to make some virtual connections and have conversations over Zoom or over phone or sometimes over email, however it works. Connecting with people, finding their career journeys, and figuring out a way that they might be able to help you or provide insight is really what this is all about. So I have a couple of images here, resume and LinkedIn. I'm going to talk to you about your resume now and how you can present your America Reads experience on your resume. So the first question is, does anybody know what the purpose of a resume is? The ultimate purpose. Anyone? I'll give you the answer here. The purpose of a resume is to get an interview. Yes, your resume provides the skills and your experience and work history and all of that stuff. And sometimes I get the answer, well, you write a resume so you can get a job. But that's jumping too far ahead. The purpose of your resume is to get people to want to talk to you face to face. So resumes initially, recruiters just look at them. They don't spend time actually reading them. And so you want to make sure that your resume is organized, that it is fully correct, that it is completely truthful, that it is easy to read, and that you have proofread things. So that last bullet at the bottom made it through the spell checker on Microsoft Word. And I would be embarrassed to see that on a resume. So make sure that it's not just, oh, does Grammarly like this? Oh, did I find any spelling errors? Have people read it. So the first thing you need to do is design your header so people can get a hold of you. And notice that I am only providing phone number and email. You do not need to give me your physical address. There are a lot of different ways that you can design your header, and it needs to really be something that you like. Maybe your initials in your favorite color or a font or whatever, but take some time to design this, make it look like you want it to look. Make sure that you have voicemail turned on your phone, and because you don't want a recruiter to call you and get this voicemail has not been set up, or this voicemail is full. I actually got that yesterday when I returned a call to a student. And make sure that you only take calls when you can talk. It is better for a call to go to voicemail and then have you call them back when you are able to do that. And make sure that you are using a professional email address. Most students use their Linfield email or a Gmail that is just your name, not something crazy. So I would like you each to have an objective on your resume. So you can be very specific when you find an internship or a position that you're applying to. If you're going to a job fair or a networking event or sharing a resume with somebody who's going to share it with somebody, then you can be more broad in your objective. The next section on your resume is your education. This is where you tell me the degree that you are getting and when it will be earned. Most students can eliminate their high school, just list their Linfield education, unless there's a very direct correlation. If I'm moving to San Francisco for a job and I happen to go to high school in the Bay Area, I will want to list my high school so that there's not a question of, gosh, are we going to hire this person and they're going to get down here and they're not going to like it? So if there's that connection, then share that. If you have a GPA that you want to brag about, go ahead and list that. And we say braggable is 3.5 or above. Most fields do not require that you list your GPA, but sometimes it is nice to be able to have that brag to talk about that. And you can list some really cool scholarships. I don't want you to list every single piece of financial aid or anything that you get. This is also a place where you can put some either relevant or interesting coursework. So this is where you tell me that you had a study abroad experience for a semester where you were fully immersed in, taking classes in French and living with a host family. Or in the case of my example, a Jan term class that had an interesting topic on it. This is not going to be the thing that gets you hired, but it is interesting and it shows that you're willing to immerse yourself in something that you're not comfortable with every day. And it gives you something cool to talk about. As you are telling me about the jobs that you have had, I would like you to tell me what you have learned from them, not necessarily what you did. So skills, what did I learn from being a soccer coach? So the other thing I want you to notice on this slide is that I am not simply listing it as work experience or volunteer experience. I like to see the experience section grouped by type. And we're going to get into more detail on that in just a minute. So to know if you are using the correct version of your active skill word, looking at my last check mark down here, read that sentence, putting an I in front of it to know if it's the same or if it's the correct version. So I advanced ball handling skills. I prepared practice plans. What this does is it moves you away from saying responsible for, teaching soccer skills. If you say I responsible for, that certainly doesn't work. And saying responsible for leads you to tell me more about tasks than about skills. So more on the task versus skill thing, looking at the text in red here. These are tasks. I answer the phone, I follow company procedures, I schedule appointments, you get the idea. But if I turn it around and say, I fielded inquiries from prospective customers and vendors, rather than I answered phones. And rather than scheduled appointments, I managed the calendars of 6 busy personal trainers. You get the idea. Scheduling an appointment is a task. Managing a calendar is a skill. There's the opportunity for you to have what I'll generically call the other section. It can be activities, community involvement, leadership. There are a lot of different things that you can list this as, but this is where things go that might not fit with that work experience or in another section. So talking about America Reads, Wendy, you can tell me, am I even close in some of these bullets on what students are doing as America Reads tutors? Tell me what you've learned. So you've learned to develop relationships, and these things. So it's, again, what are you learning, not what you're doing. And this is something where, as an education major, having classroom experience is what you need to do. Another option that might work well is communication experience, because communication and building relationships is important in many, many jobs. And you'll notice that I put my skills in a different order when it's under communication rather than classroom experience.
Hmm.
Another topic I even thought of was community service experience. If, volunteering in a second grade classroom and giving me some hours per week. So there are a lot of different ways that you can present your America Reads tutor position on your resume. But really what the important thing is you need to make sure that it connects with what you're applying to and describes what you have learned from this experience. And you don't necessarily have to have 5 bullets for it. You could give me 2 really great bullets or 2 or 3 as you are thinking about what you have learned from that. So just thinking ahead, information to file away. You're also going to need a cover letter when you're applying to positions. And Wendy, if it's okay with you, I'd like to send a PDF to you that has kind of resume stuff, cover letter stuff, some information about skills that you can forward on to students. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about cover letters because this packet will share that information with you.
Yeah, that's great. I actually ask people to send me a cover letter when they're applying to be my office assistant.
Oh, great.
And every one of them has said they never heard of a cover letter before, and they have to Google it to even know what it is. So yeah.
You can send them over to career development and we can help you, or you can share the resume packet with them that has that information in it.
Thank you.
So yeah. References is something else to consider when you are applying for a job. References do not belong on your resume. They do not belong on your cover letter. They are a separate document that you don't provide until it is asked for. And you want to give names and contact information for people who will give differing perspectives of you. So, I always like to see an academic reference, a professional reference, and then what I will generically recall an other reference, which is a mentor, a coach, making sure that you avoid the whole family friend thing because recruiters just simply don't take that seriously unless they ask for a personal reference. And talk to your references as you're applying so that no one is taken off guard and know why. And so these references are prepared and know why you're applying to what it is you are doing. If you're applying online, make sure that you add your name to the file name. I review a number of resumes electronically, and I am shocked at how often it is resume.doc. Boom. Make my life easier as a recruiter. Add your name to that file name, and then I can just simply save as if I'm downloading it without having to make a change to the file name. So those are just a couple of tips as you're applying to things online. I want to briefly touch on LinkedIn as well, because LinkedIn is a really great way to gain some connections and some ideas for people that you might want to connect with. It's a professional social network. You can connect with people, you can follow people. I could talk to you for hours about LinkedIn, but we're just going to briefly talk about the difference between what goes on your resume and what goes on your LinkedIn profile. We already talked about resume and how you need to discuss what your skills are, not the tasks that you did. Your LinkedIn profile is the space where you can provide context. And if you have a great LinkedIn profile, you can add your profile username to your resume header. So, it would be your name, your email, your phone number, and your LinkedIn username. And a recruiter can click on that to get additional information. So the thing I do not want you to do is copy your resume and paste it on LinkedIn. Because why do they need to click on your LinkedIn profile if they're going to see the exact same content? So for America Reads, we already discussed what was going on your resume. You're developing relationships, you're working one-on-one, you are all of that. The context piece is I wanted to have a classroom experience early in my time at Linfield. As an aspiring teacher, I was really excited to develop the one-on-one connections with the students and to be able to shadow an experienced teacher to see how she managed the classroom. That gives the context for why you're doing America Reads. So you see the difference? Resume, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this. The LinkedIn is more the why, the story, helps them get to know you a little bit better. Okay. So I recommend that you focus on the resume first and then get the LinkedIn content once you're confident with what is going on with your resume. If you are not on LinkedIn or you want help knowing who you can connect with for some of these professional conversations, we have a great program called the Connect to Me program where we connect you with Linfield alumni. So if we had a student come to us and say, I want to talk to somebody who has served in the Peace Corps, we can find those people, we can connect you with those people. So take advantage of the fact that we know a lot of people. You're not expected to know a ton of people yet, so we can help you in doing that. And rather than remembering this long URL, it'll be easiest to just email career and we can get you started on that. We have a great student staff in career development that is ready to work with you on your resume. So if you just can't get started, or you have something but you want some feedback on it, you're welcome to stop by our office between like 8 and 4, and we will always have somebody here to review your resume. This is our pro staff. We are open to having any conversations with you to help you further your career development. This is our student staff that you would get to meet with when you come to have your resume reviewed. And there are lots of different topics that we are happy to engage in with you. And we are not even limited to the 10 that we list on this page. Sometimes we have conversations that start with, my mom told me I should come in and talk with you. And that's enough if that's where you are. But we're happy to engage with you. Our offices are in Melrose Suite 10, so that's the lower level of Melrose, and we welcome you into our office when you are ready.